Welcome, everybody. Thanks, Ange, for helping me put together something. I was visiting. I've been to Thailand many times, but the last couple of times I've run into people who said, "Why don't you do some teaching when you're in town?" And I come to Thailand to go on holiday and meet with my teachers and do some practice. And I don't usually come here to teach. I come to take a break from teaching. But since I had some requests the last couple of times I've come through, I decided, sure, I'm going to be here, happy to give a talk. And so I know some of you are captive members of the audience, although I guess you had the choice whether to come to this or watch a film. What's the film tonight? God knows.
There's that question.
Okay. And I met some of you at a meeting last night, and I'm just happy to be here. I'm glad that some people showed up that are interested. I'll talk a little bit. We'll do a little bit of meditation. We'll have some time for discussion, for questions. Can you hear me okay in the back? Am I loud enough? I've been having a great trip. I've been out here for a little over 2 weeks. Tomorrow I go into a silent retreat with my teacher, one of my teachers who I met in 1991 on my second meditation retreat. And got to spend a few days with him in Bangkok. And then I'm with my friend Joe, who's traveling with me, who I've known for probably 35 years, maybe more than that. And my friend Rachel, who's in the process of becoming a teacher, and she just came off of a 7-day silent retreat with one of the Ajahns, one of the monks in our tradition. I'm having fun, as life is supposed to be and can be. And I think as a huge point of why I practice Buddhism, because I wasn't having any fun. My life was filled with suffering and with brief respites from the suffering with, drugs and alcohol, and then all of the suffering that addiction created in my life that brought me to the place at 17 years old where I was desperate enough to try to meditate, sitting in a jail cell. And my father, who's a meditation teacher, and I grew up with Ram Dass and Jack Kornfield, and Stephen Levine was my dad. And, I had all of these great spiritual role models, and I thought they were just full of shit, hippie, burnout, peace and love. They didn't know about revolution. We needed anarchy. They were just sitting there meditating. I rebelled dutifully and got myself really strung out and into lots of trouble. But then, as I said, when I was desperate enough, my father said, try meditation. And I thought, man, it's come to this. I've stooped this low that I'm going to do what my hippie dad is into. But I was desperate. I was willing. There was the first time in my life where there was that moment of willingness to try something else. What I was doing wasn't working. Drugs and alcohol stopped working, as many of us know directly. That experience of this doesn't work, but I can't stop doing it. And my direct experience, it's so long ago, 31 years ago. I don't remember exactly, but my sense of that first time I really tried to meditate, was just a tiny bit of relief from my mind. And I was in physical. I was in detox. I had a suicide attempt. I had, I was in physical suffering and mental anguish. And it's not like I was good at meditating or like I could sit still or any, but I just was given the simple mindfulness of breathing meditation instruction. And I took it back to my cell and said, okay, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, and try to ignore my mind. This first foundation of mindfulness, the first instruction of sitting meditation that the Buddha gives in the Eightfold Path, my father gave it to me in this simple way: breath awareness. I couldn't do it very well. I'd feel a breath or two and then fear of court and prison. I'd feel a breath or two and then regret, shame about the past, feel a breath or two, and then future, past, present sucks, past sucks, the future's gonna suck. Come back to the breath. And I don't know how much I put together what was happening, but later reflecting on it, that experience for the first time in my life showed me I don't have to obey my mind. I didn't know that. Up to that moment, I did whatever my mind told me to do, and it gave me terrible advice over and over and over. My mind said, take drugs, I took drugs. My mind said, commit a crime, I committed a crime. My mind said, lie, cheat, steal, I did it. And then and my mind said, suffer about the future, I suffered. My mind said, suffer about the past, I suffered. And then sitting there in meditation and seeing, I can ignore my mind. I didn't know that. You know that? The only time I was able to ignore my mind was when I was drunk enough to ignore it, when I was high enough to ignore it. And then I realized there's a way sober in meditation to disengage from what my mind is doing, not stop it. And I think that this is the greatest confusion that people have about meditation, that it's about stopping your mind. I couldn't stop my mind. Very few people can stop their minds. If you get very, very concentrated in what we call samadhi, deep concentrated states, the thoughts will either disappear or you'll completely not notice them. But couldn't do that at all, but I could ignore them. I could choose to let them be in the background every time I brought my attention back to the body, back to the breath, back to the present. And I saw for myself, I'm skeptical by nature. I was not interested in spirituality. I was not interested in religion. I was skeptical. But I had the direct experience of this works a little bit. I want relief from the suffering that I'm experiencing. This meditation is a practical tool. Works a little bit. Having an addictive personality, when I find something that works a little bit, I'm going to do it over and over and over, see where it'll take me, like I did with drugs and alcohol. Took me right to insanity. Maybe that's enough of a intro. I'm stoked that you're here. Let's meditate for a few minutes so that we're not just talking about this, but actually practicing it together. I know some of you are maybe in early stages of recovery and in unpleasant physical sensation. But like I said, I was 2 days sober when I did my first meditation. Not even sober yet, just detoxing in a padded cell after a suicide attempt, and I started paying attention to my breath. So you're never too new to meditate. It's a practical tool, and for me, I believe that it's a life-saving tool. transformational if you do it. And it's not, I'll say one more thing. One of the main things, and this is for the people in recovery, let me see the hands of the people who are not in recovery from addiction. Not. Okay, most of us are. And this applies to everybody, but especially, I can frame it, in order to recover, in order to maintain recovery, we have to learn how to be uncomfortable. A lot of people don't meditate because they feel uncomfortable. It's like, I can't do that. That's uncomfortable. It's unpleasant. I can't do that. If we can't learn to be uncomfortable, we're not going to stay sober. We're not going to stay clean. We have to learn a greater tolerance. Now, I could say the same thing for if you want to be happy, if you want to be free, you have to learn to be uncomfortable. Unpleasantness is half of life. I started by saying how much fun I'm having on this trip. I'm having a blast. And there's been a whole bunch of unpleasant experiences. I'm not having a blast because it's been pleasant the whole time. Traveling sucks some of the time. It's unpleasant. It's fucking cold up here in Chiang Mai in the dead of winter. Freezing. Unpleasantness is part of life. Meditation teaches us how to be with unpleasantness, how to sit still, tolerate, and eventually have compassion for what we experience as painful, both physically and emotionally and in our minds, mentally. I was with my teacher, Ajahn Amaro, in Bangkok. One of the Dharma talks he gave, he said, you have to learn 3 things if you want to get free, if you want to be awake, if you're interested in real happiness. Learn 3 things. Learn how to be lonely, the skill of loneliness. Learn how to be lonely sometimes, because you're going to be lonely, so learn how to do it. It's going to happen. Learn how to be hungry. The unpleasantness of hunger. It's going to happen sometimes. Don't suffer about it. Of course, eat when you can, but learn how to be hungry. You don't always need to eat all of the time. And this is coming from a monk who hasn't had any food after 12 o'clock noon for 40-something years. He knows about hunger. You know, the monks, they eat at 11 a.m. or 9 a.m., and that's it, the whole day. No lunch, no dinner, nothing till the next day. 1 meal a day, maybe 2, maybe a small breakfast, a big lunch, nothing. Learn how to be hungry. Learn how to feel unpleasant sensations, cravings, without satisfying them. What was the third one, Joe? Oh, you weren't there. Rachel was there. Learn how to be bored. Learn how to be bored. Learn how to be hungry. Learn how to be bored. Learn how to be lonely. You'll stay sober for the rest of your life. Okay, let's meditate. Find a way to sit that's upright, relaxed. It's okay to lay down. I don't care about your posture, but find a posture that will be less uncomfortable. And as you're ready, allowing your eyes to be closed. Relax any unnecessary tension. Soften the eyebrows, the jaw. Soften the shoulders, the chest, the belly. Sit in a way that's upright and relaxed, but not rigid or stiff. Let the flesh of our bodies hang loosely around the skeleton. And then bring full awareness to the sensations that the breath is creating at the nostrils. Breathing in, know that you're breathing in. Breathing out, know that you're breathing out. All of the other senses also become engaged. There's sounds, there's sensations in the body, smells and tastes, thoughts in the mind. We're not trying to stop any of that phenomena, but we're choosing to direct our attention to the sensations that the breath creates, the nostrils. The Buddha gave this simple initial instruction. Breathing in, know that you're breathing in. Let go of the past. The breath brings you fully into the present. Let go of the future. Let the breath bring you fully into the present. Here, sitting, listening, feeling, breathing. Each time your attention goes back into thinking, just acknowledge it. Say in your mind, thinking. Come back to the breath, gently returning. An attitude of friendliness, an attitude of kindness, as we reconnect with the breath over and over, as much as you can at this time. A sound pulls the attention away from the breath. Gently return back to this moment of sitting, learning to be bored, learning to be hungry, learning to be alone within your own mind-body process. Just one breath at a time. Just breathing in. Sensations of breathing in. Just breathing out. Sensations of exhaling. There's no wrong or right way to breathe. It doesn't have to be deep. Just accepting the body as it is. Deep or shallow, long or short. Anxious or sad. Right now it's like this. These sounds, these sensations, these mind states. Come back to the breath. Come back to friendliness, to kindness. Even if you can't quite do that yet, keep trying to be friendly, to be kind to your own mind, your own body. whatever your mind wants to think about right now, is not as important as this practice. Come back to the practice. Come back to the present moment, to these sensations, to the here and now. Not stopping the mind, but disengaging from the contents. Let those thoughts be in the background, like the sound of the cars in the distance. Meditation teaches us that all things are impermanent, each breath arising and passing, each breath different than the last. The more we understand impermanence of sensation, of emotion, of mind states, of airplanes flying by, the more we understand impermanence, the more we come to directly know that attachment, clinging, craving causes us suffering. It's all changing. There's nothing to cling to. We learn to let go. We learn to accept the constantly changing nature of all things. Even simply paying attention to the breath can teach us this. And we learn that no matter how unpleasant the mind state, the sensation, the emotion, It will change. It will pass. Return to the breath over and over with friendliness. Return to the present. If you're new, just keep doing that. But the Buddha's instructions expand an invitation to investigate your whole being, using the mind to reflect, to turn towards what's happening in the body and the heart, what's happening in the mind itself. And not only what's happening moment to moment, but how does it feel? What is your perception? What is perceived as pleasant? What is perceived as unpleasant or neutral? My teacher's teacher, Ajahn Chah, Lungpor Chah, the Thai forest master, he said perhaps it's as simple as 2 words: let go. If it's pleasant, let go. Not worth clinging to. It's impermanent. If it's painful, let go of trying to resist, to control, to get rid of. Let go of the anger, the hatred, the fear of pain. Learn to care about it. He said if we let go a little bit, we'll have a little bit of happiness. If we let go a lot, we will have a lot of peace and freedom. If we let go absolutely, let go of the past, the future, let go of clinging to our identity, to self, so then you will know the happiness of the Buddha. Your heart and mind will become quiet and still, like a forest pool. And all kinds of strange and wonderful animals will come to drink from your inner stillness. Those strange, wonderful animals are thoughts and emotions and sensations. They do not cease, but they are held within a spaciousness, a stillness that is unperturbed when we're not clinging to I, me, mine. The last couple of minutes, just practice letting go. With each exhale, let go. Soften the belly, relax the jaw. Let go into this moment just as it is. Radical self-acceptance of your mind, your heart, your body. And when you're ready, allow your eyes to open, your body to move, your attention to return to the gathering. Were the instructions clear enough in the back? Could you hear them? Yeah, good. Before I continue, any questions about this simple meditation instruction? Breath, body, awareness, and letting go of needing it to be different than it is. Easier said than done, right? Feel a breath or two and your mind does whatever the hell it wants. You bring it back. Says, okay, breath, in, out. Worry, worry, worry. Plan, plan, plan. Come back. Gets easier. But you have to just train your mind. Take some time. The Dalai Lama was once asked, what's the fastest, easiest way to enlightenment? And he got angry at the question. I know the Dalai Lama doesn't get angry, but he got pissed. He's like, this is the problem. This question is the fucking problem. There's no easy, fast way to enlightenment. He said, meditate. Choose a practice. Do your practice. Hopefully you have an appropriate practice. He said, check in on your progress once every decade or so. Meditate every day for 10 years and then see, how's it working? Rather than, I tried that once, didn't work that good. Tried it a couple times, didn't work that good, so I stopped doing it. It's not meditation, not a quick fix. Recovery, not an overnight thing. Awakening, very gradual process for everyone. No quick fix. But transformative tools that head us in the right direction. Any questions about the meditation instructions? Because I'll just keep going. Does it make sense to you? Present time?
I just have one question. I would like to feel peace and contentment and joy and pleasantness. I feel like it's something that I strive for or I desire. And in your meditation, you're saying don't be attached to pleasantness. Well, how can I feel pleasant and joy and peace and feel like that's okay to feel that way and desire that?
Yeah.
What did you mean by just, I'm not clear what you mean by don't be attached to that. Does that would cause suffering when the moment comes that I'm not feeling pleasant any longer?
I mean, how much of life is pleasant? Half? Or you can just reflect on your day today. How many unpleasant smells? You smell anything unpleasant today? We're staying at a house in town and it's a little stinky. Some unpleasant smells today. Did you see anything unpleasant today? Did you taste anything unpleasant today? How about sound? Any unpleasant? How about meditation where the tuk-tuks in the distance? A little unpleasant. How about physically how was your ass during meditation? Any unpleasant sensations? How about your mind? Did your mind do anything unpleasant? How many unpleasant thoughts did you have today? Self-centered, fear-based, judgmental, comparing. You know why I'm asking? Life is filled with unpleasant experience that are unavoidable, even if you get fully enlightened. The fully enlightened Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, talked about how unpleasant it was in his body. He had injuries, he had chronic pain, he lived for years and years with chronic pain. And then he made I shouldn't say this, but he made the mistake of founding a community. And they fought with each other all of the time. You know how communities are? Always fighting with each other. There was assassination attempts on his life. Some people say that the Buddha was actually murdered at the end of his life. The Buddha, fully enlightened, no suffering, all kinds of unpleasantness in his life, not constant pleasure. What he said was, I have zero suffering. I'm awake. Zero suffering. Lots of pain. Zero suffering about the unpleasantness of leading a community that are fighting with each other and critical and all of the stuff that, like, we think of the Buddha as this perfect being and the community around him as these perfect, but they're humans with all of the neurotic shit that we humans bring into relationships. He said, this is so unpleasant, but I've learned to meet it all with compassion, so I don't suffer about it. I've learned to meet all of it with non-clinging to it being different than it is. This is what awakening taught the Buddha. He said, and there's all of this pleasure. One of my favorite passages from the suttas, in the simile of the cloth, he says, well, I don't want to do the whole talk, but there's this part in it where he says, what we're doing in meditation and the Buddhist path, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, says it's inner purification. A Brahmin comes to him and he says, do you wash away your sins in the Ganges and the sacred rivers of India? And he says, no, we don't do that sort of external devotional practice. He said, we do this internal bathing. Meditation is a purification practice. And through meditating, we clean our mind, we clean our heart, we free ourselves. We abandon that which used to cause us suffering, the I, the me, the mind, the self-centered craving, clinging, jealousy, all of the stuff that humans experience. We get free from that. He said, and when we get free, we are able to experience pleasure, like eating delicious food. And he's bragging now. He's totally bragging. He's like, we can eat long grain rice, sweet chutney, curry. He said, we can enjoy this delicious food without any attachment. And he drops the mic. Because human beings, that's a very advanced level of development to be able to enjoy pleasure without craving and clinging and and he's coming from a scene where it's like, no, renounce pleasure. It's too hard. That's right. That's why they take the vow of celibacy. Sex, hard to do that without clinging. Hard to, indulge in pleasurable, and then all of us that are addictive personality types, really hard to find balance, find non-attached appreciation. So there's all of this stuff in Buddhism and in recovery that we abstain from. They use, the drugs and alcohol used to create pleasure, then created suffering. We just renounce. We abstain from. But then what about the healthy relationships, relationship to food, pleasant experiences? How do we find a non-attached appreciation of the impermanent? Because it's all changing, and you answered it, and I know I'm going on and on, but you answered it. Because when we cling, we suffer. And non-clinging, Ajahn Chah saying, just let go. I've been trying for 30 years. I've made some progress in non-attachment, but we are not wired to be non-attached. We have a survival instinct. We are wired to cling, to crave. It's not your fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's just the way it is. Billions of years of human evolution. You're born into a body that craves pleasure, hates pain, not your fault. Now you come to recovery, you come to Buddhist practice, and you say, okay, no more craving, no more clinging. And your body's like, yeah, right. Just let go. It's a nice postcard. But how do I do that practically in relationship to, I want pleasure all of the time. But I have all of this unpleasant smell in my apartment. It's not pleasant. Light some incense. That works for 5 minutes. Masking it. I want pleasant sounds all of the time. I live in this world. And it's not just addicts. This is the Buddha. I don't know if I'm, kind of getting around to why Buddhism is such a perfect treatment for addiction. Because it's what he was talking about. Our suffering comes from our craving and our clinging. And who knows craving and clinging better than alcoholics and addicts? Everyone experiences it. Every human, every life form experiences it. But we are the extreme examples of the people that then said, alcohol creates pleasure. I'm going to do that over and over and over to an extreme of addiction to it. That helps me avoid pain. Now my body is dependent on it. Then we get sober. Okay, how am I going to find a healthy relationship to pleasure and pain? Can't just avoid pain. My teacher's, instruction, learn to be bored. Learn to be hungry. Learn to be lonely. Increase your tolerance for unpleasantness. And it will absolutely increase our appreciation for the pleasant moments. Sitting meditation does that for us. It rewires the mind, the heart. It teaches us to let go. And it's not going to happen all by itself. It's not going to happen from attending meetings, unless you're meditating in those meetings. There's a level of mind training that we have to do for ourselves. Nobody can do it for us. And it's not necessarily where we have to start. We can get sober and stay sober through attending meetings and the steps and therapy. And, there's a lot of foundational things that we can do that'll get us sober and help us find some abstinence, establishing and maintaining abstinence. But that higher level of real freedom, I was in a meeting the other night and somebody said something about how when he got sober, he looked at the people that had a lot of time. He's like, man, those and then he got to know him. And he's like, these people are miserable. They've been sober for a long time, but they haven't developed the compassion and the non-attachment and the kindness necessary for true happiness. Abstinence by itself is great. It's better than being loaded and unhappy. I'd rather be sober and unhappy. but that there is, with recovery, with Dharma practice, with life, there's a way to actually get to a place of a healthy relationship to pleasure, a healthy relationship to pain, that accepts the inevitable unpleasantness of existence and doesn't suffer about it so much, and really enjoys the appropriate pleasures that, when they're appropriate, without so much clinging, without so much craving, without so much need for the smell to go away, for the sound to go away, for the difficult people to go away. An acceptance. Chinese Buddhists say, and maybe this is more of a Taoist image, but I love it. They say life is 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows. And I like that, and it's the yin and the yang, right? There's the joy, there's the sorrow, there's the feminine, there's the masculine, there's the light, there's the dark, all of that, right? Like, it's the balance. And this is the ideal. 10,000 joys, I'll take it. 10,000 sorrows, I'll take it. Rather than the delusion, I want 9,999 joys, and I'll take one sorrow. Both pleasure and pain, gain and loss, joy and sorrow, human incarnation. And that's ideal. Like those of us who are here in recovery, many of you in early recovery, a life of active addiction is not 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows. It's like, 19,000 sorrows and maybe 1,000 joys. That imbalance of like all of that sorrow of addiction, all of that suffering, and those brief reprieves that I got when I was nodding out. Does it make sense? I know I go on and on about these things. I think that's my job. All right, while I'm on my soapbox, I gave the title, somebody reminded me, Against the Stream and the Anti-Establishment Ethic of Buddhism. And so I want to reflect on that for a little bit, and then let's have some more dialogue. When the Buddha came to his awakening, so he, the brief story, most of you are aware of it, is something about, growing up in luxury, growing up in privilege, growing up in power, surrounded by pleasure, sex, money, drugs and alcohol, all of it. Indulged in all of it. He talked about his early life of indulgence, of the orgies, all of it. He said it was dead end. I had all of that pleasure, didn't make me happy. It left me wanting, constantly still craving. He said, so I left the life of luxury and sought a spiritual awakening. And he spent all of these years meditating and trying to find out, why do we suffer? When there's pleasure, it's not enough. When there's pain, of course, it's unsatisfying. Where is peace? Where is ease? Came to the awakening of, everything's impermanent. Nothing's worth clinging to. Half of life is painful. Half of life is pleasurable. Non-attachment. Compassion. And this self-centeredness. We're born into these, we take it all personally. This mind, this body, it's not who we are. He wakes up. There's that image of him under the Bodhi tree. The Buddha in his final battle for enlightenment. He's sitting there under the Bo tree. He says, I'm attacked by Mara. The demon Mara, which is his own mind, of course, attacks. And he says, don't meditate. You'd be happier if you were getting laid. Sex is the solution. And the Buddha sits there unmoving, saying, I know pleasure's impermanent, sex, it's not the solution. And his mind attacks with judgment and resentment, the armies of Mara that come after him, judgment, fear, anger, resentment. Sits unmoving, meets those painful thoughts with compassion. Then Mara attacks with doubt. Mara says to him, who do you think you are? You're not worthy of liberation. Your mind ever say that to you? Who do you think you are? Low self-doubt, low self-esteem, judging mind. Even the Buddha on the verge, and I think this is important. I think it's very important. That the Buddha's sitting there, he's almost enlightened, and he's thinking about sex, and he's thinking about resentments, and he's having doubt about his own ability. His mind is attacking with the same shit that your mind does to you. It's not personal. It's not our fault. It's the human condition. He has meditated his way to seeing through it. We're still taking it personal and suffering about it. He has meditated his way to seeing like, oh, that's just what the mind does. That's not who I am. It's just lusting. It's just anger. It's just fear. It's just doubt. No big deal. Imagine if you related to your mind like that. No big deal. Just doubt. Just Mara. I see you, Mara. And, one of the reasons why I love this, because it's an example of that's actually possible for us. The human potential is that we can change our relationship to our minds like that. I'm certainly not enlightened, but after 30 years of practice and recovery and I see like how radically my relationship to my mind, my relationship to pleasure, my relationship, progress, not perfection, but what a radical shift than 31 years ago when I was sitting there trying to kill myself in jail, filled with anger and fear and craving and Mara attacking and me saying, I believe you, I am a piece of shit, drug addict. And then, what if I pay attention to the breath? What if I come into the body? What if I soften my belly? What if I try to be kind to myself even though I don't know how yet? And the gradual shift over the days and months and years of practice and establishing and maintaining abstinence and going to meditation retreats and participating in recovery and the shift that takes place over the decades, slowly. So the Buddha comes to his awakening, and then he doesn't know what to do. He's like, all right, this shit worked. I am free from suffering. I've seen clearly. I've responded wisely. Now what? I was, you ever get that way? Like, so excited to go somewhere, and then you get there and you're like, I'm here. I'm in fucking Thailand. Now what? What should I do? What am I going to do between lunch and dinner today? Because that's basically the two events. And he has some doubt. There's a part of him that says, you should go teach. You should teach people this. You got here. People can do this. And his other part of his mind says, that sounds like stressful. Trying to teach people? He's like, I don't even have bliss to offer them. I don't even have that first question. I can't even say, hey, if you do this, you'll have pleasure all the time, which is what we all want to hear. He said, I'm going to go and try to sell people how to be hungry, lonely, and tired and not suffer about it. Good luck. Not a great sales pitch. Welcome. I'm going to teach you how to be lonely. I'm going to teach you how to be uncomfortable. I'm going to teach you how to have sorrow and grief and not suffer about it. So part of his mind says, it sounds like a hard thing to do. He said, I don't even think people will do it. His own mind, right? This is back and forth, and this is my interpretation, my revisionist interpretation of the Buddha's enlightenment. And finally, he gets convinced. He's looking at a lotus pond, and he sees that some lotuses are totally in the mud beneath the surface. Some are about to breach the surface, and then some are fully blossomed, are out in the sunlight. He says people are like that. Most are stuck in the mud beneath the surface. Some are towards the top, and very few are blossoming. He says, he uses the term, for those who have little dust in their eyes. He said, we live in this world of humanity where human beings are blind. Their eyes are caked with mud. They're not seeing the impermanent reality clearly. They're taking everything personally. They're fueled by greed and by hatred and by delusion. That's the status quo. Look at the world. It's clear. Greed, hatred, delusion rules the world. Rules human interactions. Greed as in craving for pleasure, hatred as in aversion to pain, delusion as in I am the center of the universe. Even if I feel like a piece of shit, I'm still the most important piece of shit in this world. In my world, what do they say? I'm the tiny piece of shit that the universe revolves around. And this is where this term against the stream comes in, right after his awakening. He said, I went against greed. The Buddhist word, the Pali word is patiso tagami. I went against greed. I went against hatred. I went against delusion. Against craving, against clinging. I rebelled against human nature, against our own survival instinct to come to awakening. He said, and for the benefit of those with little dust in their eyes, I will try to explain this to others. I'll teach. I'll teach the Dharma. I'll share it. But he was, again, skeptical. I love this. I love that he was skeptical. I like skeptics. If you're skeptical, you're my people. You think I might be a little bit full of shit? That's cool. Set against the stream. And I'll teach it for the benefit of those few. I said maybe a handful of beings in every generation will have maybe it's the karma, maybe it's whatever it is, enough dissatisfaction to say, I'll try it. Let me meditate. Let me see what happens. This is where I think that there is there's this phenomena of the grateful addict, the grateful alcoholic. The people who are grateful for the suffering in their life that brought them the willingness to do spiritual practice. Part of this handful of people, because if your life is going great, if you're happy, if you're satisfied, you're probably not going to meditate. Not that anybody's life is going great and is happy and satisfied, but if it's kind of good enough, where's the motivation to practice? The motivation to practice for most people comes from suffering enough to say, I have to. I got to try something else. What I've been doing hasn't been working. I got to do something else. So the establishment I mean, it's just obvious, right? I don't even feel like I need to. The world is crazy. I've met a lot of people in Thailand that are like, I'm so glad somebody said to me tonight, and I'm not criticizing at all. Somebody said, or maybe I am, I don't know. Not going back to America. Places, I was like, yeah, fuck America. It's fucking crazy. There was this vote in England yesterday, where more fascist conservatives are taking power. It's my judgmental view, terrible. It happened in America. Trump, terrible. Thailand, not so good politically. Find a country that is. India, terrible. Greed, hatred, racism, sexism, homophobia, oppression is the norm on this planet. The Buddha in his awakening was really about, like, who can I teach to do this? He didn't have a lot of hope for the world, I don't think. He said a handful. He's like, people aren't, this is not going to like change the whole world. This is samsara. Very few are going to really develop this wisdom, this compassion, but it's open. The door's open. Anybody who wants to. Anybody can. I mean, it's this very empowering teaching. He's saying, you all have Buddha nature. If you're willing to do the work to connect with your Buddha nature, you can. Everyone can. The most confused. Trump has Buddha nature. Who's the guy that just got elected in Boris? Boris has Buddha nature. Everybody has it. Very few are trying to uncover it and open their heart and awaken their mind, are doing the practices. Most are just chasing money, running from pain, craving for power. Although the Buddha's, my view, again, my own fantasy of who the Buddha was, he was really like, let's teach individuals, but he did some very radical political moves against racism, against the establishment of the racist caste system. He broke down gender bias in a very radical way for the time, 2,600 years ago. Maybe was one of the first people to just even acknowledge that women were sacred, that had the same Buddha nature as men. Friend of mine that's traveling, that we're talking about on some of the tours, about how some of the temples she went to, the women couldn't go in. Here in Thailand, in the Buddhist country, where the Buddha himself was like, don't do that. That's what they were doing in Hinduism. Let's not do that. Women are the same as men. That we're not these bodies. But the sexist, patriarchal system comes in under his name, Buddhism. Corrupted by human confusion, delusion. But he was a radical. And Buddhism encourages us to be radical equality. All beings, not gender, not race, not orientation, not any of that relative reality that people live with and are oppressed by. It's true. I'm not trying to say it's true and it's not right. And part of what Buddhism asks us to do is not only wake up in ourselves, but try to wake up and speak out and be an activist in the world. Engaged with all of the systems of oppression, both internal, our own greed, hatred, and delusion in here, and external. The greed, hatred, and delusion that is the status quo on this planet. That's what I mean by the anti-establishment encouragement of Buddhism. From the inside out. Maybe I've said enough for now. Questions, comments, what do you think? Does it make sense?
Maybe can you just, like, I really like the term that you use a lot with the Dharma Punx, the meditate and destroy. And I think that really ties in here with the anti-establishment and being able to change. Like, can you explain exactly a little bit? Can you talk a little bit about what meditation destroys? Because I have that tattooed on my hands, and a lot of people ask me, like, they say it makes no sense. That it makes no sense, and it does. To me, it does. But I think it's
Nibbana Nirodha. Nibbana is the goal, awakening. We get to awakening through meditation, samadhi. Sati, samadhi, mindfulness, concentration. Meditation destroys that which was previously causing us suffering. Nibbana itself, the term, what we call nirvana or nibbana, is a term of extinguishing or destroying the flames, pouring water on the flames of greed, hatred, and delusion. And that leads to freedom. You destroy the causes of suffering. You extinguish them. You put them out. Nirodha means the destruction of that which causes the end, right? Nirodha, the end. Nibbana, the extinguishing. So it makes perfect sense. Destroy greed, destroy hatred, destroy delusion. You'll be free. How do you do that? You meditate. Meditate and destroy that which is causing suffering in your life. And disrupt the system. From the inside out. Do it into your own heart and mind, and then bring that force of equality into the world. Bring that force of anti-sexist, anti-racist, anti-delusional capitalism, like bring it into the world. Model it, live it. That's what the Buddha is encouraging us, and it's what we're trying to do, and it's a lot easier said than done, but that's what the path, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path is encouraging. Welcome. Please.
It's kind of interesting. You said I'm coming from a sort of point of view of a UK kind of environmentalist, and there's a lot of despair and hopelessness about the environmental situation in the UK, at least.
Sure. The whole planet, yeah.
Yeah, and that seems to be bringing people towards a kind of journey inside, like the grief, especially. I wonder if you sort of seeing that dynamic. It's people who weren't necessarily, they were more like activists, and they're coming towards a Buddhist perspective because of the emotions these difficult emotions that are arising because of the environmental situation. I don't know if you've seen any of that, or where it kind of goes after that.
Well, I have seen some of it for sure. I tend to have this, because I came from addiction and to this role, I tend to think like it's always suffering, some sort of personal suffering that brings it. And it's not true. Like sometimes it's not about your own, it's about the suffering in the world. That's I wanted so badly to do something about this, change the world in some way. And then you see, oh, I can help a little bit, but I can't fix it. And it's just as you're saying, it can bring us to like, well, I do some internal work. That's where I do have some influence. But of course, both and. We don't want to stop the activist engagement, trying to create a positive change, I believe is 100% appropriate part of what we're doing, and internal. I tend to take this sort of from the inside out perspective. Do your work, and at the very least, you won't be causing so much harm on the planet. You won't be part of the problem. There is the phenomena of the angry environmentalist, the angry protester against violence, the kind of like, let's kill the fascists, right? Let's meet ignorance with more ignorance. I get it. I feel that way sometimes myself. So I'm definitely seeing that. I feel like in the States, we're seeing that a lot. And so my own feeling is, what's the balance of engagement and activism and internal work? I also see it the other way, where, and a lot of us in addiction recovery, where we come in this very self-centered, like, I'm just suffering and addicted, and now I'm getting free. And now that I'm getting free, I want to be of service. I want to be engaged in the world. So now I'm concerned about the environment. I was so busy shooting dope, I wasn't concerned about anything. Now I'm concerned about, maybe social issues, environmental issues. And how do I find a balance between self-help and engagement, awakening and creating a positive change on the planet? I don't have any real answers about it, but that it is the dance that we're doing of, those who come in through the, like, oh, I'm feeling so overwhelmed by this situation of climate despair. And what's her name? Greta going like, it's too late, guys. You fucked up. We got 10 years. You didn't listen. We had this information for decades. And it might be end times. What are we going to do in the end times? Meditate your ass off. Get as free as possible and continue to do what we can to slow it down. Please.
My understanding of the Islam is the king and that.
Yes.
So I thought they're both the same, the environment and enlightenment.
Yeah, same.
I thought people sized up too.
Yeah. What was I saying that convoluted? I do think that it's the definition is, that's the freedom that we're seeking.
Where did the soul of Buddha? The Atma, the soul of Buddha. Where did it go?
That is a great question that I don't know the answer to. He didn't answer it, right? You know this, right? You're trying to trick me. He didn't answer this question.
But it's an incarnation of Vishnu. That's where it went to.
That's what the Brahmins, Hindus say. Yes.
It's all part and parcel.
Yeah. He didn't answer it. He was asked, well, what, okay, if we're free from samsara and this cycle of rebirth, what happens to the soul if we don't come back? And he didn't answer it. He said, that's not an important question. It's not a useful question. You don't have to suffer anymore. That's enough, right? Freedom from suffering. He said, I don't, there's this place where one time he's asked these questions a lot. And he says, I don't teach cosmology, philosophy, I only teach practical psychology. What causes suffering to human beings and what will end suffering for human beings? That's what I teach, or all beings. I don't talk about, where you go or just how does the human mind work? How does the human existence, and what's the problem here? There's craving, there's clinging, there's self-centeredness. That's the problem. What's the solution? Let go. How do you do that? Meditate your ass off, practice some renunciation, be of service, and you will get more and more free from the causes of suffering. Please. Maybe last one. I know we're,
Sort of, I've got too many questions. That your the refuge recovery teach, the 12 steps in relation to refuge recovery.
yeah.
Have you had 12-step working with you've done a lot? Is that a part of your background?
Yeah.
And then refuge recovery, you were talking the Dharma.
Yep.
Just teaching the Dharma. But coming from 12 steps and also having a few phases, lots of meditation and involvement with it, and then I've given it away. I don't know, I like obsessive compulsive thinking and having OCD and thinking. I found with meditating my arse off became the issue, and then I sort of fell back into just fellowship and AA and felt that's just what I needed, right? Because I was actually obsessive and meditating rather than experiencing it.
Right.
And the part in the 12 steps where it says progress, not perfection, that we are not saints in that sense, as opposed to trying to reach enlightenment. So that crossover, I thought, was just a question I thought I'd ask you. Is like, in terms of an obsessive, compulsive nature and addict trying to get something,
Yeah.
I found that really hard.
Yeah.
Whereas AA, all of the 12 steps is a softer approach. Softness, I think, a lot of the times what I need. I don't know if it's a question.
I think it's a good question. I hope this doesn't, I know it's rude in Thailand to point your feet at people, but I have a knee injury, so I need to actually put my leg up. It's starting to hurt. So I apologize for being rude and pointing my feet at you. It's a good question.
I don't really know what I'd ask.
Well, it's a good question about part of the that I appreciate is this balance between community and the healing of being part of community, and that's so much of what's healing about recovery groups is just like being part of, listening, the personal narrative. I tell my story, you tell your story, I relate to it, we're all in it together, rather than the meditation, I'm in it alone doing my meditation. The Buddha was quite clear about this. Refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. Refuge in your own potential for awakening. Refuge in the truth, the teachings, the practices that will lead to awakening. And refuge in the community, the fellowship, the Sangha. We need each other. We need each other for a lot of reasons. We need the support of other people. And, I talked about my teacher, Ajahn Amaro, saying, learn to be lonely. Because we can't have each other all of the time, but have each other, come to the meetings, we need that peer support. We need that. And Sangha, so healing in 12-step or in Refuge or in Buddhist Sangha, to have I think 3 layers. We need the people that we look up to, the mentors, the sponsors, the teachers that we look up to that inspire us. We need that. We don't need to be all alone in a cave meditating. We need people that are inspiring us, that are supporting us or encouraging us, sponsoring, mentoring, whatever we call it. Then we need peers. People that are like, we're all in this together, we're peers. And then we need people that we're helping. Got to be of service. Help the newcomers. Help the, old-timers that are struggling. We got to, have those levels of sometimes you're of service, sometimes you're allowing yourself to be helped. Sometimes you're just hanging out and talking shit with your homies. All 3 is part of Sangha, of fellowship, of recovery. I like Buddhism way better than I like Christianity. I like the non-theistic, humanist psychology that the Buddha taught. Makes sense to me. I came into the 12 steps 31 years ago. I was like, these are my people. I know I need these people. This philosophy doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I'm not a theist. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Jew. I don't believe in a creator God. I don't believe in a higher power. I think that those guys, Bill and Bob, created it. Brilliant how open-minded they were about, let's try to make this open as we can to all theists. Doesn't matter what God you believe in, as long as you believe in a God, a higher power. And, even in the chapters of the agnostics where it says, everybody eventually will come to believe as long as you have open-mindedness. My experience, I never came to believe. I came to believe in meditation. Prayer is powerful. Community is powerful. Service is transformative. Generosity and kindness and like the principles, the practices. I don't believe that there's a God that's doing any of that. I think human beings are doing that. That's my own experience. That's what makes sense to me. So Buddhism just made more sense to me. Humanists, psychology, the goodness is in all of us, even the most confused. I named the politicians, even them. It's in us if you uncover it through your own actions. So that's why I created Refuge. I was like, oh wait, I want a conversation for addicts, for alcoholics, that gives them the tools that the Buddha gave us. Here's how to get free. And gather together regularly in Refuge meetings. Yeah, it's great to tell stories. It's great to support each other, but meditate. Go to the meeting, every Refuge recovery meeting, guided meditation, so that you're doing the practice that's going to give you the skills, the tools, to not only maintain abstinence, but to get the freedom of non-attachment and of compassion. Please.
I guess the same with the fellowship side. I haven't heard anything about it tonight, so I was wondering if that's...
Yeah, no, and that's why I said I love the question, because I didn't say enough about community. So important. And then there's this... I just wrote a book. I wrote a book about Buddhism recovery, refuge recovery, because it's what I've been doing in my own life for these decades. But I had to spend all of this time hanging out with the Buddhists, who are not really my homies. They don't understand addiction. They don't want to go see Motorhead with me. And going to meetings with the addicts, who are my homies. They don't understand Buddhism. They're talking about God. I don't believe in that. So I had this kind of split in my life where I wanted the Buddhist recovery community. Your friend Paul you were talking about, he's one of the guys a decade ago where we were like, a whole bunch of us got together and said, Buddhist and recovery, rather than I'm 12-step over here and I'm Buddhist over here. Buddhist recovery. So I have enough delusion and ambition and ego or whatever it is that was like, okay, I'm going to create it. Nobody else has done it. I'm going to fucking do it. I had the platform. I'd already written some books. I already had some, okay, I'm going to do it. And it grew and it grew to there was almost 800 refuge recovery meetings 6 months ago. And then there was all of this drama based on lies and deceit and power struggles in my community. And it split it. So now there's a breakaway group that basically took all of the stuff that I had created and changed the name of half of the meetings. So now there's only 500 refuge recovery meetings, or 4 something. But it's continuing to go. And now there's a whole nother program that's also a Buddhist recovery program. It's the same thing. They're the refuge meetings. They changed their names. But, it's a tragedy. But it's Sangha. It's fellowship. It's community. And it's continuing. And we'll see what happens with it. We're 5 years in, going on 6 in June. And it's, Rachel, who you're sitting next to, is part of the Refuge group and on the board of directors. And it's like 5 new refuge recovery meetings starting a week still. Because people are like, I want this. I want to meditate. I want to talk about kindness and compassion and non-attachment. And I don't really want to talk about God. I want to talk about Buddhism. And so it's just growing. And we'll see where it goes. I don't know. From the beginning, I was like, okay, I created it. Let's see what the world does with it. 12 steps have 80 years of existence. You asked if I go. I still go. I've been going to AA for 31 years. I met a bunch of people here at a meeting here. I was in Chiang Mai. I went to a meeting. I still go. I like being part of the fellowship. I go there and I talk shit about AA. I say Buddhism's way better, but you're my people. And people appreciate it. Oh, cool. You mean I don't have to believe in God and I can still be here? Yes, you don't have to believe in God and they won't kick you out. They haven't kicked me out yet.
Have you done that down in the south in the States?
Yes. I do it everywhere that I go. Yeah.
And when they stand around and do the Lord's Prayer?
I don't say it. Even the serenity prayer, I wait till everybody else says God, and then I say, grant me the serenity. I'll say it once in a while. I mean, I don't care that much. But I don't mean it, so I don't want to say it. I'd rather say what I mean and mean what I say. So, there's all that. I also feel like, who knows? Also, if you believe in God, no judgment. I'm not saying that I'm right, you're wrong. I'm saying my experience is that it didn't make sense for me. If it makes sense for you, beautiful. But there needs to be something for those of us that it doesn't make sense for. And it's fine to go even if you're not a theist. They're open-minded enough to say only requirement for membership, desire to stop drinking, using. You're welcome here if you're an atheist. You're welcome here if you might get some personal shit. I don't know if I'm just intimidating, if it's the neck tattoos or what, but nobody ever talks shit to me. Like, hardly ever does anybody come up and be like, you're an atheist. Who come up to me after the meetings are the people who are saying, thanks, I needed to hear that. I'm an atheist too. I'm glad to know I can stay sober and not buy all of this. I'm glad to hear it. It's mostly what I get when I, go and do my heretical participation. There's Refuge here, starting a new meeting. There's 3 or 4 meetings in Chiang Mai, I think. Is it 3? Second one. There's 2. There's a morning one and an evening one. And then you're going to be...
Morning one is Sunday.
Friday morning, Sunday. Great. Yeah, so there's some meetings here, and maybe some people here will start some more. One of the things I like about going and speaking at places is that I encourage people, do it. Start a meeting. People will show up. You'll support each other. If you're in treatment and you're going home and there's no Refuge meetings where you're going and you like it, think about it. Start it. Find the people that will support you, that you can meditate with, that you can have these conversations with. We need each other, if it's what makes sense to you. It's probably enough. I'm sure I missed some stuff. But happy to be here, really. Like, cool to get to come and visit. And thanks for coming out and listening. My sense is, Buddhism is really this open-handed. It's not asking for faith. It's asking for investigation. So check it out for yourself. Find out as you reflect on it, as you practice it. Does this make sense? Does this work? If I meditate, do I suffer less? And it's not just meditation, also part of Sangha, community. Wise friendships, necessary for everyone, including and especially for those in recovery. We need each other to be of service, to be served. Buddha ended most of his sermons by saying, it is now time for you to do as you see fit. Not believe me, not this is the ultimate truth, and if you don't agree with me, just saying, here's the Dharma. Everything's impermanent. Time for you to do as you see fit. Let go. Time to do as you see fit. Have compassion. Develop these skills. Time to do. If you want to do it, do it. Do it. You can. Again, gratitude to Simon and the River for hosting. Gratitude to Ange I met with her last year. She's like, give a talk next year. I was like, okay, cool, set it up. Thanks for setting it up. And there was another guy, Brian, that helped facilitate it. So really gratitude to all of the people that helped make this happen tonight. Happy to be here. As a Dharma teacher, some of my livelihood comes from the donations. We're trying to do this thing as lay Buddhist teachers, like the monks. You know how you go and you donate to the monks? We're not monks, we're householders. I've got children, I have rent, I have, all of this. I have a householder life. But good chunk of my income comes from people who come to my teachings and make donations. I don't charge for teachings, but there is a basket here. We call it Dana basket. Dana is one of the Buddhist terms for generosity, for making an offering to a Buddhist teacher. So if you care to, there's a basket. Feel free to give a donation. If you don't want to donate, no worries. Welcome to take the Dharma for free. So, many merit that comes from our practice and discussion of the Buddha's Dharma be shared outward in all directions with all sentient beings. May each one of us do what needs to be done, what can be done to experience freedom. And together may we create a positive change on this planet.